Frosties! Welcome to my kitchen and another edition of Cooking with Miss Jones. Are you ready to make super cookie? Yes! Hope you got your pan. So you should have gotten one of these if you are an in-person student. So you're going to take your pan, set that aside, and we're going to look over the ingredients that we need. We're also going to kind of review the rules of how to measure things, how to properly do that so that we, oh, and I already see something I need a spoon. All right, so we're going to review some of those things that we learned at the beginning of the year about proper measurements. So we have half a cup of butter. Now, do you guys remember how much is in one stick of butter? How many sticks of butter do I need? Do you know? If you look on your... This is crooked. But always remember, if you ever need to measure butter, it's on there. It's right on there. The measurements are on there for you. So we know that here it says 4 tablespoons equals 1/4 of a cup. We see tablespoons because the bottom ones are tablespoons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 1/4 of a cup. Then we know that 1, so this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tablespoons is 1/2 cup. So this whole stick of butter is 1/2 cup. So for this recipe, we need 1 stick of butter. So that is nice and soft. Key with butter is you want to make sure that you leave it out so it's nice and soft. You don't want hard butter or else it's not going to mix into your ingredients very well. So you want to make sure this is nice and soft. What I normally do is if I know I'm going to bake something, I let it sit out. And it's okay if your butter sits out, even if it sits out overnight. I do that all the time. That is okay for your butter. That's what they used to do. They used to just I remember always going to my grandmother's house and she always had butter sitting in the butter dish. And that's perfectly fine. It'll be okay. Next thing that we have is 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I'm actually going to start measuring these as I say each item. So I'm going to need 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now, does anybody remember how to measure out the brown sugar? If you remember, the key is spoon. So we're going to take our spoon and we are going to pack our brown sugar into our measuring container. So we're going to spoon it in and pack it in so it's nice and tight in there. And then I'm going to level off all the excess with the back of a knife. I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to do that later. So that's my brown sugar. Next, I want to measure out some white sugar. So I just have some white sugar here in this bowl. For this recipe, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons. So for white sugar, we just scoop and level off. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons. So 1 and 2 tablespoons. Now the first thing, I forgot to tell you. Make sure you're preheating your oven. Have you preheated your oven? Make sure you preheat your oven to 350. 350 is what we're gonna bake our super cookie at. So, what is already in our bowl? Our brown sugar, our white sugar, and I'm going to add our stick of butter in here. I'm gonna let this sit while we measure the other ingredients. Now, as we measure the other ingredients, I'm gonna actually turn on my mixer. Why? Because I wanna cream together the sugars and the butters. That's really important because you wanna make sure that this is the creaming method. Whenever we make cookies, we cream together the butters and the sugars. So I'm gonna put my mixer down. I'm gonna lock my mixer. On the back of the mixer, there's a lock on it. You wanna make sure that if you have one of these mixers, that you lock the back. That becomes really important, especially when you make dough, because it'll go like this. So make sure you lock your mixer. And I'm just gonna turn this on and let it start mixing. Can't touch this. I don't know why I'm saying that. Alright, and then the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna measure out our vanilla extract. I have pure vanilla extract, but if you have just imitation extract, that will work just as fine. The other thing in your recipe, I use butter. I always use butter when I make cookies. Your recipe also says you can use margarine. You can use margarine as well if you would prefer that. I just prefer butter because I feel like it tastes better in different things that you bake. So that's why I'm using that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm measuring out the vanilla. So I need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I'm going to measure it over top of this bowl. I'm just going to pour this in and then pour it right into my bowl so that when I need it, it's there for me. Alright, I'm going to secure that. Next, what I'm going to work on, so I have my 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I also am going to need an egg, so I'm going to actually crack that. Whenever we crack an egg, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to crack the egg on the side. I'm going to crack the egg maybe on the side here. Really what you want to do with an egg is you want to crack it on the table. And then you're going to lift open both of your cracks so that egg is all ready. The best thing to do is to crack it into another bowl, because that way if you do get any shells in there, you can fish them out instead of fishing them out in there, because that's not fun. So I'm going to leave this right here. So I have my vanilla ready, I have my egg ready to pour into the bowl. Next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to get ready my flour. So, to do that, I'm going to spoon my flour. I'm going to spoon my flour into here. I'm just going to put this over in my bowl so that the excess flour kind of runs off. Now I spoon the flour into my measuring container, and I get my knife and I level off that flour. Now this is a cup of flour. For this recipe, we're going to need 1 cup and 1/3 of flour. So I'm gonna take my spoon, my measuring cup again, and spoon that into my bowl. And then after that, I am going to measure out my salt and my baking soda. So for my baking soda, I need half a teaspoon. So I'm going to use half a teaspoon. I'm just going to scoop this and level it off and then put that right into my flour mixture. And then also I need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Just gonna pour that right into there. And then last, at the very end, we're going to use our chocolate chips. So I'm just gonna leave them there for right now and measure at the end. Let's look at our butter and sugar mixture. If you can see, it's nice and light. You almost want it to look, it should change in color. I know you can't see that very well, but you want it to change almost to a lighter color. And that's creaming the butters and the sugars together. And what it's doing is it's mixing them together so they almost become one. You want the butters and the sugars to become one. That's right. All right, so we've added our sugar. Next, I'm going to add my vanilla. And then I'm going to add my egg. And I am going to lock my mixer in. Don't forget to lock your mixer. And I am going to mix those two together. I'm gonna actually turn it up a bit. You want to make sure that you mix it just until it's mixed because you don't want to over mix that egg. So I'm going to unlock my mixer again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rubber spatula and I'm going to scrape down the sides because I want to make sure that all of that mixture gets incorporated into what I'm making. All right, then what I'm going to do is add my flour. I'm gonna add the whole thing in there. The key whenever you are adding all of these ingredients, I'm just putting all of my my dirty dishes into the bowl so they're all in there. My sugar. There we go. Now we're a little more organized. Actually, I'm going to need that 1 cup. Alright, so my flour mixture that has the baking soda and the salt mixed in together is in here. So we're going to mix that slowly. Remember, if you've ever done any baking, you don't want to turn it on high because what's going to happen? Like that. Thought I was locking it. Oops. I made a little mess for myself. So you want to slowly incorporate that flour into your mixture. Turn that up a little bit higher. And a little bit higher. And just a tad higher. lot of flour on this side of my bowl from my little explosion. So I'm going to scrape all the way down, and this is where you really want to make sure that you incorporate all of that in. Make sure I get all of that goodness in there. Lock them again. Turn it on low. All right. Now for the best part. Chocolate chips. I don't know why I'm speaking in a British accent today. Now I have the Ghirardelli ones today. These are the Graham chips. We are using 1 cup. I know it might sound like, oh, well, why don't you just dump the whole bag in there? We don't want to do that because there's not as much dough as you normally would make a normal batch of chocolate chip cookies. So we're only using the 1. Don't worry, there will be enough chocolate. Also, these chips specifically for this one, they're a little bit bigger, so they're extra yummy. Now, some people don't do this. They don't like to mix the chocolate chips in here. They like to fold them, and you can do whatever you want. I like to add mine in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paddle attachment off. I'm going to pull on it and twist, and it's going to come out. I'm going to pull on the handle. And I'm going to scrape all of this excess off right here. Put that in here. Next thing I want to do is I want to spray my pan. So to do that, I'm going to use some cooking spray. Now, whenever you use cooking spray, you want to make sure that you're not spraying it over the table. You're just not spraying it on the floor, because what could happen? You could slip and fall on your face, or somebody else in your family could slip and fall on their face. So you want to make sure that you spray this either over a trash can. My trash can is really tiny, so I'm not going to do that. Or over the sink, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to spray this over this sink. And then it's ready. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mixture. This also makes really good cookie dough, so if you just want to make cookie dough, you can also do that with this recipe. I'm going to throw it down. Really what you should do is you should spread it out to different sections. I will do that. So I'm just going to kind of smooth this out. It might take you a little bit. It might seem like there's not enough, but it will expand. I always feel like that. I'm like, oh no, it's not going to be enough. But it does expand. So have no fear. The cookie cake will expand. Because also remember that the cookies do expand in the oven. So think about chocolate chip cookies that bake. Make sure I get all the cookies off. Okay, and I'm gonna put this in the oven. And we shall see how it turns out.